You guys hear it? It's crazy. These freaking things are everywhere. Cicadas, man, killing me. Everybody wants to know how to attract deer. And I have probably made, I don't know, a dozen videos about this over the past several years, and it's probably one of the highest viewed videos that I've ever made on my channel. You know, some of them have 100,000, 200,000, almost 300,000 views. And it's pretty cool, and I appreciate that. And you know, as I make them each year, I usually make one every year just to kind of refine it a little bit. Each year you learn something, and you can give better ideas on how to do it. And there's 3 things that attract deer to your property, that you can do to attract deer. As many of you know, I'm not huge on supplemental feeding as far as, you know, corn piles, mineral blocks, you know, bait piles and things. And to be honest with you, most times when I go to a client's property, I highly recommend that they get rid of them, because when they start talking about them and they show me trail cam, oh, I'm getting trail camera pictures, you know, this and this and this, it's all nighttime pictures. You know, what good is that? If they're all nighttime photos, that bait pile does you no good, right? Other than getting some sort of inventory, which is good. But there's better ways to do it, and we're going to describe that in this video. So number 1 is food plots, obviously on private land. Private land food plots are your number 1 go-to thing that you could possibly do to attract deer to your property. Evening or food plots attract deer because deer consume 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pounds of food per day, and they are looking for the most palatable food source within the area. If you ever see deer out grazing, out in the field, browsing, out in the field, you notice how they take a few bites here, a few bites there, a few bites here, a few bites there. It's because what they're eating in that spot wasn't palatable anymore. They're picking through it, and they may pick a thing of clover, and next is a piece of orchard grass or something that's not very palatable. So they're browsing through there and sorting out what they want to eat and what they don't want to eat. And that's the way it works, right? So when you plant a food plot, it needs to be, when done correctly, it needs to be the most palatable thing within the area. So that is going to control deer movement. When you place food on a property, it's going to change everything on your property before, as if you didn't have a food plot. Everything is going to change. Deer movement is going to change. When the deer come out, it's going to change. How many deer that's on your property is going to change. Which way the direction of the deer is going to enter that food plot changes, or that field is going to change. Everything changes, and most of the time it changes for the better. So when you're doing these food plots, you know, make them palatable. Take the time and, you know, and file soil samples and make them palatable, and make them plant something that's going to be valuable to you and the deer all throughout the season. Because if it's not mid-October, mid-November, December, you're left with bare soil, then all your efforts is down the drain, because the deer are out of food. When they're out of food, it's not good, because all their movement is going to change. They're going to be gone, and they're going to go someplace else where has a higher, you know, amount of food and a higher quality food. So that is the number 1 thing you could possibly ever do on your property, is to plant a legit, sustainable food plot. Number 2 thing that you can do on your property, okay, to attract deer, is to create travel corridors. When you create travel corridors, you help to dictate where the deer are going to move. And it's not necessarily attracting them. It is, but it isn't. But it's a very good step to add to this video, because it'll correlate to food plots in making those food plots even more attractive. Is when you take a travel corridor and you clean that trail up. You're creating a trail through the path of least resistance for that deer to move to get to that food plot. When you do that, you create an amazing effort for that deer to travel on that path, because the deer are lazy, right? They don't move very far, especially when it's warm, and they're lazy. They want to get to that food, and they want to be able to get to there the easiest way possible. And when you create the travel corridor, you're cutting trees out of the way, you're getting down to bare soil to where you have no leaves there, you're spraying the trails, you're taking a leaf blower and blowing them out in whatever it is, November, August, September, before deer season. Obviously when you create them trails and blow them out, the deer are going to use them like crazy. And then in the fall, the leaves are going to fall on that trail, but that's okay, because by that time you've already created a pattern of use for the deer, and they're going to continue to use that trail. It's going to be wore down in the dirt, and the deer are going to continue to use it because you're still going to have your food plot there providing food for that deer, so they know where to go. But it attracts them, and it defines movement. It defines movement, and it's going to help you pattern the deer more. Put some trail cameras out on that travel corridor, and you'll be amazingly surprised on what happens. Trust me. If you still have time to do this, you can get in there with a little chainsaw, cut these paths out, hinge cut some trees on the sides, and get down to bare soil. And I'm telling you, it'll blow you away on the little amount of effort that it takes to make this work. I'm telling you, trust me, try it. And number 3 tip that I can give you guys on attracting deer to your property is less pressure. And the least amount of pressure that you can have. This should be an obvious one, but it's really not to a lot of people, because a lot of guys will ride a four-wheeler through the center of their property every morning in the dark on their tree stand. They blow the woods out and then wonder why they don't see anything. And I made a video about this probably 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember the exact title, but I think it said, "Does ATVs spook deer?" or something like that. And it got heavily criticized, because people will say, "Oh, I ride my four-wheeler all the time. It doesn't affect deer movement." And then like a couple years later, or a year later, everybody's making videos about four-wheelers on the property, how it spooks deer. And now it's the greatest thing ever. And I'm still sticking to my word on that, is that it spooks deer on your property, because I seen it firsthand when I used to hunt this property, and had a guy, it was 275 acres, and a guy every morning that we hunted, he would hop on his four-wheeler, start it up 4:30 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, blasting through the woods, through the center of their property, up ditches and creeks and all this other stuff. And rarely did he ever see deer, but it also affected everybody else's movement, as far as seeing deer, because it blew out the woods. Deer don't want to hear that stuff, right? Deer have a funny sense that when they start hearing all these four-wheelers in the fall, and they start seeing some people in the woods, they put 2 and 2 together and say, something's up. Like, all these people normally aren't here. I usually don't hear these noises. I need to get out of here. And it works that way. So, obviously, if you need to ride a four-wheeler to the stand because you have a, disability or something, who cares? Do it. Do what you got to do to get out in the freaking woods. If you can't get out there, call me and I'll push you. I'll do whatever I can to get you out in the woods. But to everybody else that just don't feel like walking, or something like that, realize that when you blare your four-wheeler through the woods, you're blowing the woods out. And yeah, you can blast a four-wheeler through the woods and still kill deer. I'm not saying that. But in a general sense, when you do this, you're spooking the deer, you're blowing them out, and your chances of shooting one or seeing any diminish. What the percentage is, who knows? Because each area is going to be different. Or do they hear these noises year round? Do they see people year round? Yeah, they may be a little bit more, calm around that situation. But in areas where all of a sudden they just start hearing it out of nowhere, they're going to be gone, guys. Just walk to your tree stand if you can. Get a bike, get a scooter, electric cart, something. But get in there quiet to your tree stand, and have you'll have way better success. I'm telling you, trust me. I've seen it firsthand on many different properties. The four-wheelers blow them out, and just get rid of them, and you'll have more success. Any questions, post them down below. I gotta get out of here. These cicadas are driving me nuts. I had some videos I had to shoot today for you guys, and I'm done now because they're irritating. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you on the next video.